Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand. It's about 8:30 in the morning. And I was sitting in my room about to make a cup of coffee, and I had all these thoughts rolling around in my head. And I thought, instead of sitting in my room drinking coffee, having these thoughts, I'd go for a walk and chat about them on video. Kind of another episode of my video journal here in Mae Sot. As far as cameras go, I'm shooting this on the GoPro Hero 9 Black this morning. And I guess I'll start with a little bit of a life update. Big news for me, I guess, is I broke a tooth back here, one of my molars on the back on the right. I don't even know when it happened, to be honest. I have a history of breaking teeth. Twice I ended up in some serious trouble because of this. I remember I was in Taiwan just eating some chicken, and I guess when they chopped it up with a cleaver, they cut into some of the bones. So I'm happily chewing away on the chicken, not realizing that there was a bone in my mouth. And I bit down on the bone with a hard bite and broke a tooth, again on this side. So I split a molar on way in the back there. And this happened to me right before when I had plans to go back to Canada. So I sort of left it alone, and then I flew back to Canada. And of course, I got a major infection down into the roots, because when you break a tooth, it opens up opens up like a passageway, down into your jaw, and then you get an infection down there. And yeah, it's bad news. So I was in quite a bit of pain when I got back to Canada, and then I had to go to I still had a family dentist, a dentist that I'd went to my entire childhood. He still had a dental practice, so I went to see him. He referred me to a specialist in my hometown in Canada, and I went to see the specialist, and there was really nothing they could do but pull the tooth out. And that was that was one of the more dramatic dental experiences of my life, because I've never had a tooth like that pulled before that I can remember. And this was his specialty. This is what this guy did. And I remember being astonished at how much force was required to do it. Yeah, that tooth has got to come out, and it doesn't come out easily. And I don't remember all the techniques he used, all the tools he used, but I do remember this incredible sensation of pressure as, my head was being held down. It was almost like this isn't what happened, but it felt like he was sitting on top of me, like holding his knee against my chest, and he had this pliers on that tooth and just used all of his body strength to just rip that tooth out. And he only got part of it because the tooth was shattered. And then he had to go back in a couple of times to pull out all the remaining parts of the tooth that were left in my jaw. Yeah, that was no fun at all. A lot of drama, a lot of dental drama. In this case, I just woke up the other morning and a hunk of my tooth was just gone. I didn't bite down on anything. I don't remember breaking anything. But on the front of my tooth, there's a big, it's almost like a glacier. You see all those nature shows where glaciers in the Arctic are being pushed out into the ocean, and then huge chunks of the glacier will break away. The whole front face of the glacier will break off and crash into the water. That's what happened to my tooth. On one side, a whole side of it just broke off, and I didn't even notice it happening until I started feeling around with my tongue, and I noticed that a good chunk of my tooth is gone. So I have a visit to the dentist, or probably several visits to the dentist in my future, and I'm not exactly thrilled at that thought. But I've already sent out feelers here in Mae Sot to try and track down a dental clinic that I can go to, or a good dentist. It's an interesting topic in a way. I had a similar situation when I was in the Philippines not that long ago. I had developed a cavity, had a lot of tooth pain, and I'm terrible with pain. I'm a serious wimp when it comes to pain. You know, I think I've said in the past, I'm not a fearful person, but I'm also not a tough guy. And pain just kills me. Pain does me in. Any amount of pain, and I'm a wreck. So when I had that, brutal tooth pain in the Philippines, I had to go have it dealt with. And there's this whole thing, which I didn't know about, like dental tourism, where they have very good dentists in the Philippines. A lot of them were trained overseas, even in the United States and places like that. And they speak English, of course, very well in the Philippines. So it became a common thing for Americans to have dental work done while they're in the Philippines. And people started to do the math, and they figured out that they could go to a dentist in the United States, have all this work done, and it would cost them X number of thousands of dollars, whatever the final bill would be. And then they figured out that, well, if they go to the Philippines and have that work done, it will cost them half as much. And then they can use the other half, the half of the money they saved, on a holiday, a beach holiday in the Philippines. So yeah, dental tourism was born. And I guess that's a thing all over the world, isn't it? Medical tourism, dental tourism, but it was kind of a new concept to me. But the thing about it was I could find a good dentist in the Philippines. Not easily, to be honest. I had quite a few adventures doing that. But I did go to see a dentist in the Philippines. And turned out I kind of made a poor choice. I don't think I got a very good dentist. But he did fix up the cavity in the Philippines. So it looks like I'm going to have that same experience here in Thailand. It doesn't feel like an emergency, though. I don't seem to be developing a bad infection or anything like that. There's a little bit of pain here. It's just that some of my tooth is missing, and I know I'm going to have to deal with it eventually. I don't have to go today. I probably don't even have to go next week if I don't want to. I just have to put it on my schedule, something I have to do. Oh, here's something kind of interesting. A few months ago, I went to a restaurant that was here and made a video about having lunch there. And I noticed the other day when I walked by, they shut down, which is kind of sad. I don't know whether they had plans to shut down anyway, or whether they were another victim of the pandemic, but I guess they couldn't stay in business. And this restaurant is now gone. They shut down. Talk of dentists is kind of appropriate because the other topic on my mind is health related. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts. It's a podcast called Radiolab. I love that podcast. They cover so many interesting ideas, and they often cover things that are current, that are in the zeitgeist now. So it's something I'm already thinking about a lot. And then I listened to Radiolab, and they made a podcast about it. And in this case, just like you, just like everyone in the world, I'm thinking a lot about body temperature, because we get our temperature taken now, depending on who you are, maybe a dozen times a day with those temperature guns, as you go in and out of businesses, in and out of work, in and out of schools. And our temperature is now our ticket to entrance. If in order to go inside a building anywhere, they have to take your temperature first. And if you have the right temperature, you can go in. If you have the wrong temperature, you can't go inside. So it's kind of it's something we've all gotten used to very quickly. They have temperature guns here, where they aim at your head. And then they have these new ones lately, a bigger unit sitting up on a kind of a tripod, and it's supposed to aim at your forehead, and you kind of bend over and put your forehead against it, and it takes your temperature. So more than normal, I've been thinking about temperature, our body temperature. And of course, in Canada, I grew up with Fahrenheit. When I was young, we used all the, imperial Fahrenheit measurements. Canada. So in Fahrenheit, normal temperature, we've always known to be 98.6 degrees. That number, 98.6, is like burned into our brains. We've heard it so many times. And this podcast was all about temperature. The name of the podcast was called Kleptotherms. And this is a new word for me. I don't think I'd ever heard it before. There's a whole range of words based on that same concept, kleptotherm, kleptothermy. And the basic idea is that a kleptotherm absorbs heat from another creature. And that's where the podcast begins its story, with this concept of animal species that cheat when it comes to regulating their body temperature. Because, in fact, regulating our body temperature, keeping us at 98.6 degrees, is one of the most intense things our body does. It takes a huge amount of energy to keep our body temperature at the level it needs to be. And these kleptotherms, they figured out that, well, if some animal is inside its burrow, sleeping and keeping it all nice and toasty warm, this kleptotherm will sort of sneak in there and cuddle with this other animal while it's sleeping and absorb their heat. And I guess that's what a kleptotherm is. And there's other species like lizards, I think, that will use termite mounds like that, because a termite mound will give off a tremendous amount of heat. And then the lizard knows this, and they'll go up to a termite mound and lie on it and absorb the heat of the termites to warm up their own bodies. So this whole idea of a kleptotherm is kind of new to me. I didn't intend to get here, but just by walking around, I ended up at the entrance to one of the neighborhood temples. And there's the entrance to the temple. I've been here a few times. No, it's kind of a special temple because every time I show up here, I'm surprised that I'm here again. I'm very familiar with it, but every time I show up, I feel like, oh, look, a new temple. And then I walk through the gate and I'm like, oh, no, I've been here before. And this is the temple with, I think of it as the dog temple, because they have so many temple dogs here. Well-fed, fat and happy temple pooches. And there's some of them over there. Hey, temple pooch. Look at them. Very roly-poly. Hi. You want to come say hi? I don't have any food, though. They're interested because they think I have food for them. But I don't think they're used to pets, so. But yeah, this is the pooch temple. Temple of pooches. Oh boy, look at this. I just woke up the whole pack over here. It's okay, guys. Come here. I better. I better keep walking. I'm not welcome over there. Not at all. Anyway, kleptotherms. And the podcast went on to talk about this number of 98.6 degrees. It's like, where did it come from? And is it even accurate? And they told this interesting story. Apparently, this all started, as almost everything medical does, almost everything scientific has its origins, going back to the 1800s. So this story goes back to the 1800s, and back then, of course, if you had a fever, doctors kind of thought of that as the disease. The fact that you were feeling hot and feverish, that was the disease itself. I think there was even this vocabulary where today we say, I caught a cold, or I have a cold. Back then they would even say, I caught a heat. And all the treatment was aimed at lowering your temperature, because the temperature was seen as the disease itself. They didn't see it as a symptom of a disease. It was the disease, the thing that needed to be treated. And that's how it was for a while, until a German doctor, Karl Wunderlich. Oh my goodness. Another pack. This is like the third one. Hello. I better keep going. Hey? This one seems a little bit aggressive. Well, based on my reception, I think I would remove this temple from your tourism plans for visiting Mae Sot. I was thinking of this temple as such a great place because of all the dogs here, but no, don't come here, especially if you're nervous around dogs. Anyway, there was this doctor, German doctor in Leipzig, I believe, Karl Wunderlich, and he had a different kind of idea, and he decided to do some empirical testing. Back then, it was very difficult and took a lot longer to measure someone's temperature. So it was quite an undertaking, and by the time he was done, years and years had passed, and he had kept detailed records of the temperatures of 25,000 patients for a total of 1.5 million temperature readings. And he discovered that people who had different illnesses, their temperatures would go up and down during the progress of the disease. He noticed, temperatures going up and then going down and going back up. And he developed what he called, or what people call, fever charts. And he started to understand that the temperature was not a disease. It was a symptom of an underlying condition. So this was kind of a breakthrough in medical science. And through the data that he collected and through the things that he learned, temperature became not something to be treated, but even a diagnostic tool, because if you knew someone's temperature and kept track of it, it would actually give you information about what illness they might have and the stage of the illness they're in, because at certain stages of whatever illness, your temperature varies. And then later on, almost as a side benefit, he wasn't even thinking about this at the time, that, we have 1.5 million data points for temperature for sick people and healthy people, and they crunched all these numbers that they had, did statistical analysis of them, and concluded that the normal temperature for a human body was 98. Well, he was doing Celsius, so it was 37 degrees Celsius. Based on all of his empirical readings, they totaled it up, came up with an average, and said the average normal temperature for a human was 37 degrees Celsius, which is 98.6 Fahrenheit. And this number was brought over to the United States when his work was translated. And I can't remember the details, the name of this person or the name of the company, but there was a doctor or a scientist in connection with a company who turned this into a major marketing tool that I guess flooded the United States at that time. And they were basically saying to all the mothers out there, your children, if they're healthy, should have a temperature of 98.6 degrees. And here we have this thermometer that you can use to check to see whether your children are healthy or not. So this number of 98.6 got mixed into the marketing campaign for this company selling thermometers. And yeah, so this flooded the whole country, and that was sort of the beginning of how all of us know that number, 98.6 degrees. 98.6 degrees. Mothers all across North America constantly feeling the forehead of their children, popping a thermometer in their mouth and making sure that they're at 98.6 degrees. Of course, I think it's pretty common knowledge today that 98.6 or 37 degrees Celsius is not really even accurate. For one thing, we all have different body temperatures. What's normal for me isn't normal for you. I'm told that fat people have a higher temperature than thin people. Tall people have a different temperature from short people. Women tend to have a higher normal temperature than men. There's all kinds of variation, and your temperature even changes throughout the day. So you might be cooler in the morning or warmer in the morning, cooler in the evening. So it's not like we all walk around at 98.6 degrees all the time. I'd say pretty much nobody does. And it turns out that as an average, even 37 degrees is not accurate. That's what they came up with based on those numbers from the 1800s. But of course, in modern times, they've done more scientific, more rigorous testing. And I think the accepted number now is 36.8 degrees Celsius as the average normal human body temperature, which equates to 98.2 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, the other funny side to all this, what we're living with today, is that we're all very well aware that these temperature guns that they're picking up for $2 at the hardware store, buying them in bulk, they don't really work. So I do get a little bit nervous sometimes when I go into some random shop. All I want to do is buy a snack or something, and I go in there and they take my temperature. And what if their thermometer is defective and it comes back and says I have a 100 degree or like a 39 degree, 40 degree Celsius temperature? That's what the machine says, and it's inaccurate. But then because the thermometer says that, maybe they call the health authorities, and I end up swept up into the system and find myself in quarantine in the hospital based on a faulty reading. So every time one of these thermometers takes my reading, I'm a little bit, I hope this piece of junk gets it right. And of course, we've all gotten readings of like wildly different readings. I've gone into 7-Elevens here where they told me my temperature was 36 degrees, 35.5, and then all the way up until 37 or 38 degrees. Only once in all the months I've been here, only one time though did a thermometer register a high. It said temperature too high and gave out like a beeping sound. But that was the only time. So yeah, Radiolab. The episode is called Kleptotherms, and I think it was released on May 5th. It's on their website. You can just go to Radiolab, look for, do a Google search for Radiolab, go to their website. You can see the podcast right there, and you can listen to it online. Or of course, you can download it if you use a podcast catcher on your smartphone. I was going to track down a new coffee shop down the street there, but speaking of temperature, I'm actually really hot right now. I'm like sweating and hot, so I think I might pop into coffee today just so I can sit inside where it's air conditioned. And it's after 9 o'clock now. I think they open at 9, so I should be able to get a cup of coffee there. I'm gonna go for an iced coffee this time, I believe. Or maybe I'll give them one more chance at a hot cappuccino. We'll see. Of course, I've got some typical Doug thoughts on my brain. These tend to be, they fall into the category lately of rants about the modern world, and it bleeds into technology and design quite a bit. The thing is, I've been copying video files from the GoPro and my other cameras to my phone, And it takes a very, very long time to do that. And I think a problem might be that my memory card reader is an old one. So it's based on USB 2.0 protocols, which is quite slow. The cable is 3.0 and the phone is 3.0, but I think the card reader is still 2.0. So I wanted to replace the card reader. So I went on Lazada and I'm doing all the research. And the listings on Lazada can be so frustrating because they often miss the details. So it's really hard to figure out what is going on exactly. And I'm very detail oriented. And I did my due diligence in this case, at least I thought I did. And I came across a really interesting device from a company called Transcend. I really like Transcend. They make high quality products. And they offered a memory card reader, which I haven't seen anywhere else. It has a micro SD slot, full SD card slot, and it has a USB-A slot. And the advantage to that, according to what I read, is you can use the memory card and the USB-A slot simultaneously. So I can plug this thing into my phone, then I can put the dongle for my wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, so I can operate that on my phone, and I can be copying files from an SD card at the same time. Normally I can't do that because I have to plug in the memory card to copy files, and while I do that, I can't plug in the dongle for the wireless keyboard. But with this device, I can do both at the same time. And I'm looking at the description, and it was listed as Transcend RDC3, USB 3.0 and 3.2, so the very latest high-speed transmission protocols. And I thought, wow, that is perfect. I looked at all the photographs, I checked it all out, the listing, RDC3, USB 3.2. I ordered one, cost 600 baht. It's on its way to Mae Sot now. But just this morning, I opened up Lazada to look at the shipment details to see when it's going to arrive. And I noticed that on the product listing for this device, there's a photograph with some paragraphs of text underneath the photograph. And I read through those paragraphs before, but I guess I didn't read them super carefully. And this time I decided to read them again. I expanded the photograph until I could read all the fine print. And in the fine print of the photograph, it says this is the RDC2, which is a USB 2.0 protocol. So the listing, the item of the name, everything in big letters is Transcend RDC3, USB 3.2. But then when you look at the little fine print underneath the photograph, it says it's a totally different model that has only USB 2.0 protocol. So now I don't even know what I'm getting. I have no idea which model I'm getting. And I have no idea what the technical specs will be when it shows up. And it's because this company on Lazada listed their product incorrectly. The details are not consistent between the item description and then the fine print connected with the photographs. So I don't know what I ordered. I may have wasted my money completely. I guess we'll find out when it gets here. There's coffee today. And with that rant, I'm overheating, so I really need some air conditioning now. And I have one more rant in me. I'll save that for when I'm enjoying my coffee. And here's a temperature. Oh yeah, these are the even fancier ones. Oh, they open at 8 o'clock. I forgot about that. Yeah, I like these ones because it measures the temperature from your hand and gives you hand sanitizer at the same time. 36.4. Yeah, I wonder if that is accurate or not. And I've been here a couple of times with my cameras, of course, and I've normally taken a seat over here in the corner. And one time I tried out that lounge chair over there. maybe this time, well, I do find these chairs to be the most comfortable. So maybe I'll try out this table. And this will be my view. I can look out that direction. And if the GoPro is facing me, it will be looking back over there. Nice backdrop. Yeah, I like this. I don't feel quite as cut off as I did in the corner, because I sat in the corner before because they usually have louder music playing near the front. But today it's kind of quiet, so I think I can get away with sitting here. My microphone won't pick up the music. It's nice to have a view out onto the street. A nice backdrop behind me. Free advertising for coffee today. Contact me. Big fan of your iced cappuccino. We'll see if I'm a big fan of your iced cappuccino, because that's what I ordered this time. I didn't go for the hot one. And I can see her busy making it over there. Yeah, it's kind of hard to go wrong with an iced cappuccino, right? It's just lots of ice and coffee and milk, and you're done. You don't have to worry about the getting at the right temperature or getting enough foam on it or lovely designs on the top, that they do with a hot cappuccino. This, by the way, is what I've been talking about in that last rant. This is a USB OTG cable, which you need to plug anything into your phone, because you can't just plug like any cord into your phone. It has to be an OTG cable in order for any device to communicate. And this is not a high quality one. I can't really get high quality items here in Mae Sot, but it's good enough. It's a 3.0 as far as I know. So it's a fast OTG cable with a USB-C port on it. But this is my memory card reader, which I have had, again, I couldn't even tell you how many years I've had, stretching well over a decade. Thank you. All right, look at that. Ice cappuccino. Yeah, in terms of value for money, this is the way to go, Hot cappuccino, we get a little bit and hit or miss with the temperature, and that's, yeah. And it's the same price, a hot cappuccino or an iced cappuccino. Look at that. Whew. Kind of a shame though when you think about it. That's a really nice cup, very high quality plastic and single use. But what can you do? That's the modern world. Nice. I was just saying, I've had this memory card reader, and it just has a slot for micro SD and full-sized SD, USB-A. So that plugs into my phone. This plugs into the OTG cable, and the memory card goes in there. But I believe this is USB 2.0. So I wanted to get this, but 3.0, and I don't know, the thing I ordered from Lazada, the Transcend, it could be an older model 2.0. Find out when I get here. But even if it is an older model 2.0, I can probably use it because, as I said, it has 3 slots, micro SD, SD, and USB-A. So you can plug multiple items in at the same time. And it does say in the fine print that you can copy from a memory card and operate a device this way at the same time. I doubt very much that is possible, but hey, we'll find out when it gets here. And she did ask me about the level of sweetness that I wanted, and I never quite know what to say, but I just said medium. I would always make this gesture of, medium. No, like, we'll see what I came up with. That's good. Yeah, nice. That is much nicer than the hot cappuccino. This is the way to go. Nice coffee flavor. Good choice for me to come here this morning. For a couple of days, I've been hanging out a lot at Namaste Cafe to get the masala chai. I love to sit out there at the table on the street, just open to the world, and watch everything going on around me. And I get to chat with the owner there because he and I are very simpatico when it comes to technology and camera gear. I'm very interested in Olympus cameras, and he used to own a fleet of Olympus cameras, and he just sold them a short while ago. So we're talking about that. And I don't know if I told this story or not, but this is another rant I could tell that he told me about an app, a local Thailand website and Android app for buying and selling used items. It's called KD, Kaidee, and that's how he sold all his Olympus cameras. He just put them on KD, put some photos of them and sold them and shipped them to people, and then that's how he buys and sells things. So he told me I should get KD on my phone. So of course I got back to my guest house and I fired up my phone. In terms of phones, right now what I'm doing is I'm using my Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus as my high-powered video editing machine. It's kind of dedicated to that. And I'm still using my Xiaomi, the Redmi Note 9 Pro. This is my, I hate this name, sounds so pretentious, but everyone uses it, all the YouTube reviewers. This is my daily driver. So this is the actual phone I use for all of my normal email. I have WhatsApp on this phone. I have Lazada on this phone. So if I'm downloading a new Android app, I would do it on this phone, not on my Note 10 Plus. This is my daily driver. Such a dumb expression, but it's accurate, it's a useful phrase. Just feels weird to call it your daily driver. You hear the YouTube reviewers, they got a new phone they want to review, and they say, this is the new Samsung Galaxy, whatever. It's been my daily driver for about 2 weeks now, and then they talk about it, my daily driver. Anyway, in this case, my daily driver failed me. I went to the Google Play Store, gonna download KD, and KD is not listed on the Google Play Store. It's not there. Doesn't exist. So I had to do my usual hours of, or what felt like hours of research to figure out the problem. I won't bore you with the long story, but what I learned was that my Google Play Store is the Canada Play Store. So all the apps I have access to are the ones for Canada. And so as far as Google Play is concerned, I'm still in Canada. I'm physically in Thailand, but as far as Google is concerned, I'm still in Canada. So the KD app is only available if you are using the Thailand Google Play site. So I looked into that. I thought, well, I don't know, I'll just switch to the Thailand site and then I can get it, right? And then I can switch back to my normal one or leave it at the Thailand one. What do I know? And there was an option right in the menu, would you like to switch to the Thailand Google Play? And I thought, yeah, well, let's give this a try. And I clicked on it, and I got a big warning that said, if you do this, you will lose access to all your Google payment systems because they're through my Canada Google Play. And if you change your country, you cannot change it to a new country for 365 days. You can't just hop from country to country. Once you switch, you have to wait a full year before you can switch again. So with those two warnings, I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I need to be able to pay through Google Play, my Google Pay account. I can't lose that because everything I use from Google, I pay for it through subscriptions on Google Play. Anyway, it's another one of these technological catch-22s you run into all the time. Anyway, I was not able to download KD and use the app, but I can go to the website So I can still use it. I just can't use it on my phone. Well, I can't use it as an Android app, but I can go to the website on my phone and buy and sell using KD, just not on Android, not on whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think you know what I'm saying. Just changed the battery on my GoPro Hero 9. So the one that came out, toasty warm. Speaking of temperature. Yeah, I think in terms of my original GoPro Hero 7 Black, it really was the high temperatures it endured. That's what killed it. Melted the rubber on the outside, made it brittle until it all started falling off. And then all the switches and the interior electronics basically got destroyed by the extreme heat that it produced. So yeah, heat, something. Yeah, if you're an kleptotherm. Yeah, kleptotherm. That makes sense because klepto is like stealing, right? A kleptomaniac. I never even thought of that until just now. How dumb am I? But so that a kleptotherm would be a heat stealer. So if you go to the Wikipedia page for kleptothermy, they have different categories, and one of them is cuddling. So technically, I think every woman on the planet is a kleptotherm with the desire for cuddling and then absorbing that heat. Doesn't make any sense though, because women are supposed to have higher body temperatures than men. So what's with all that cuddling that's going on? But a GoPro battery would be very attractive to a kleptotherm, because yeah, they get hot. Funny thing about having the GoPro and walking around or being set up in a coffee shop like this is I've noticed that most people that see you with the camera, they don't know which way the camera is pointing. So I'm holding it out in front of me, of course, and I'm filming myself, the ultimate narcissist, filming myself. But the people ahead of me, they see me walking along holding a camera and they think it's pointing at them. So I often get people around me, giving me peace sign or thumbs up or waving, and they think they're being recorded, but they don't realize that I'm actually recording myself. And even here in the coffee shop, people that walk by behind the camera, they're all kind of ducking down to get out of the camera frame. But I want to tell them, it's like, no, I'm not filming over there. I'm filming this way, so don't worry about it. Anyway, I learned something new about the GoPro Hero 9 Black, and I think it's my discovery. I haven't heard of anyone talk about this, because in a recent video, I was giving the Hero 9 Black a really hard time about the touchscreen, because I've found the touchscreen to be almost unusable. Not just glitchy, but unusable. I just I can't scroll up or down, I can't click on things, I can't do anything. But just now, I was changing the battery and I wanted to review the video clips, just check the audio. So I have to manipulate the menu. And I was doing it with my finger, and again, I couldn't do it. I couldn't scroll left, right, up, down. I couldn't do anything with my finger, it wasn't responding. I finally got a video clip to open, and then GoPros have this ingenious scrubbing tool on video playback, which I use constantly. And I was trying to operate it with my finger, and I couldn't. It just would not respond, and I was getting so frustrated. And then I thought, well, okay, my finger isn't working, but I got 4 fingers and a thumb. Maybe one of them will work better than this finger. So I switched from this finger to this thumb, and it worked beautifully. I was able to flip from screen to screen to screen using my thumb. I could use the scrubbing tool with my thumb. I could zoom back and forth just as well as on the Hero 7 Black. So apparently, if you're using your finger, and maybe, my finger got wet from this cup and then I dried it off, but there was something wrong with it. The temperature, the humidity, the electrical reading of my finger, there's something wrong with it. Don't keep fighting. If your finger isn't working, switch to another finger or switch to your thumb, and maybe your thumb will work. So for the last 2 or 3 minutes, I was using my thumb, just zooming around, clicking on things, manipulating the menu, and my thumb worked perfectly. So, because I did do some research yesterday, and when the Hero 9 Black initially came out, everybody was complaining about the touchscreen. That was the #1 complaint about the Hero 9 Black, that the touchscreen was unusable. So bad that a lot of people just took their GoPros back to the store and said, okay, I want a refund. This thing is a piece of junk, you know, it won't work. But then other people who were doing reviews of the Hero 9 Black, they said, all those people are crazy. They said the touchscreen works beautifully. And they're demonstrating how, yeah, it's no problem at all. You just swipe, 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 swipe. So for some people, it worked. For other people, it didn't. And then GoPro actually released a firmware update. And the main point of that firmware update was to fix the touchscreen. And then there was another huge flurry of testing going on by all the YouTubers, and most of them concluded that the touchscreen had been fixed and it was now responsive. So I decided to check my GoPro, like maybe I don't have the latest firmware. I don't know. I never really checked the firmware, but I did check, and my mystery benefactor who gave it to me, a very meticulous and methodical person, I think he made sure to send it to me completely updated and with all the batteries charged, you know, packed perfectly. That's just the kind of guy he is. So he made sure to send it to me with the latest firmware already installed. I think it's 1.52, the latest firmware update, and that's what's on my GoPro. So I do have the touchscreen improvements on my GoPro. But as I said, with my finger, wouldn't work at all. But then just now, I switched to my thumb, and it worked perfectly. And that is amazing news. I tried to use a stylus, because I have a stylus for my Galaxy Note 10 Plus. And I thought maybe a stylus would work on the GoPro. But it doesn't. It doesn't respond to the stylus. It has to be your finger, I think. Anyway, there is hope on the horizon, and I have to walk back my severe criticism of the Hero 9 Black, at least as far as the touchscreen is concerned, that it's not unusable. If it's unusable for one finger, try another one. Try a thumb, and maybe it will work better. Oh, I can't tell you how happy that makes me, this discovery about the touchscreen, because I just turned off the GoPro again for a minute, and just as an experiment, I went to use the menu system, tried out my finger, nothing. I could not get anything to respond. Apparently my finger is dead. It's not alive or something. It would not work, and then I switched to my thumb, no problem at all. I could, I'm reviewing a video, and I want to scan back to previous video clips, flipping from video to video, hit play, scrubbing tool, zooming back and forth. The thumb is the answer. The thumb is what you need. That was what I need for my GoPro Hero 9 Black. So anyone out there having trouble with your Hero 9 Black, try a different finger. Yeah, crazy. But my experiment is definitely true in my case. Finger doesn't work, thumb does. Oh, another kind of crazy story from my life. If anyone has been following my personal traumas, you know that my touring bicycle, connected with the name, the Cycling Canadian, and my pannier bags, my tent, my sleeping bag, my cook stove, my tools, my camera lenses, my Kindle, basically everything I own in the world is in storage at a guest house in Kuala Lumpur. This is a place I've stayed at for extended periods of time, multiple times. I knew the previous owner when it was called the Bird Nest. That was the name of this hostel. And then a very nice guy managed the place, and he sold it. He moved the Bird Nest to a new location. He sold his guest house to someone else, and it's now called Natalia's guest house, or just Natalia's. And so I stayed there for extended periods, and I got to know the owner, Natalia, quite well. And when I've gone off on my little trips, she let me leave things in storage at her guest house for no charge. They have a big kind of a loft area, and it's a kind of a big open area, and they had a room where they stored things as well. It's a common service for these backpacker hostels, because backpackers are always leaving things in storage, going off traveling, and then stuff like that. So she would let me leave things in storage there when I went off on my trip. And when I went to Myanmar, I left everything behind. I left my bike, as I said, and all my camping gear, all my tools, everything I left in storage up on this loft. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and the borders closed. So all of that stuff has been there, sitting there for, well over a year and a half now. And I've been in contact with Natalia. I check in with her every couple of months just to say, I still can't return to Malaysia. I want to come back, and I'll get back as soon as I can, and just want to check in with her, make sure everything's okay. And to be honest, I'm a little bit worried because that loft area gets quite hot, and I've got camera lenses up there, and you're not supposed to leave camera lenses in that condition. It can develop mold and fungus inside the lens, and my bike is probably rusting and falling apart. The rubber of my wheels is probably degrading. The whole thing is probably just collapsing into an unusable state now, but it's not much I can do about it. Anyway, I was sitting at Namaste Cafe having a masala chai yesterday, and I got a message from Natalia. It's kind of a funny message. As soon as I saw her name on the message, I thought, ooh, there must be a problem with my bike. I assumed she was selling the guest house and that I would have to do something, deal with my bike and get it out of there or have it shipped to Canada or do something with it. But it turns out that she is going home for a few months. She's from Russia, and she's going to go home to Russia for a few months. And a new person is taking over management of the hostel for a while. And I don't understand the arrangements they have, but the new manager apparently is not happy with all of this stuff being stored for free. So his plan is to take all of this stuff, and not just me, but a whole bunch of other people having storage there, move it all into one room and make that room the storage room. And then the cost of the rental of that room will be divided up amongst all the people who have things in storage there. So this is what Natalia is doing. And she contacted me and said, this is what's happening. And I have to take your bike and all your gear and move it into this room. And there is now a monthly fee, a storage fee that I have to pay to keep it there. So, I'm perfectly happy with that. She allowed me to leave it there for free for a year and a half now. So to pay a nominal storage fee from now on, absolutely fine. I would have paid the storage fee right from the beginning, if she'd asked for that. But it was just kind of a funny situation to be dealing with, because now, in order to send her the money, I have to go to a bank here in Mae Sot and try to deposit money to her bank account in Kuala Lumpur. So that is going to be my adventure either today or Monday, if I'm still here in Mae Sot. We'll see. So yeah, a good chunk of today might be spent at a bank somewhere trying to figure out how to do this. Just leaving from coffee today. I enjoyed that little interlude very much. Good coffee, nicely air conditioned. Though of course, like everything in life, air conditioning is kind of a double-edged sword, because I got so accustomed to that temperature inside that now that I've stepped outside, it's just like, oh man, that sun hits like a sledgehammer because you're not used to it anymore. As I was walking around, I knew it was hot, but it didn't bother me because I was normal. But spend an hour in air conditioning and then step outside. Whew. Then you really notice it. Oh, heading back to the guest house. I have some errands to run here in Mae Sot. I've got to touch base and pick up some documents first back at my room, and then I'm going to head back out into the city. And if those turn into major adventures, I guess I'll tell those adventures later on. The other day I met up again with Howard. This is the American who's traveling around Thailand on a Honda Rebel 300. We met at the Chavi coffee shop and hung out and talked for a while. And he's on his way to Mae Sot today, heading north. So yeah, he's continuing his journey today. I think yesterday he went to the Mae Sot hot spring, the place where you boil eggs in the hot spring. At least that's where he was talking about going. I don't know whether he made it there or not. I haven't heard any of his stories yet from that trip. But he's made arrangements to go for a trek in Mae Sot. He's pretty much the only tourist in town, I think. So he's arranged sort of a one-person trek to go into the hills or the mountains near Mae Sot, spend a night or two in one of the mountain villages, I guess, in a kind of a homestay, do some hiking, and then returning to Mae Sot. He talked to me a little bit whether I wanted to come along and join him on that trek, but I really couldn't leave Mae Sot right away. My tooth is kind of getting in the way, though, because now it feels like I really should just go to a dentist, but that's probably going to take an entire week or so. And I think I might just try and live with this tooth for now. Or who knows, maybe there's really no problem. Maybe having a third of this tooth break away won't be a problem. Maybe it's just how the tooth is now, but I do feel some pain, though. So I'm worried that an infection could develop in the jawline, and that is definitely bad news. So we'll have to see how this develops. Funny thing is, whatever pain I feel, I only feel it at night when I'm sleeping, and I guess because I'm lying on the pillow with my face on the pillow, and there's pressure there, and then I start to feel discomfort. And there was one night when it got really bad, and I thought, oh boy, this is starting to get serious. But during the day, I don't notice at all. I don't have any, I mean, there's tenderness there, but it's not that bad. It feels like it's something that could just heal over, and then I won't have to really worry about the tooth at all. Anyway, another adventure here in Mae Sot. I certainly wasn't expecting to have to deal with a broken molar. Anyway, back at the guest house, I gotta, as I said, pick up some documents and head out to a bank and do some other things. So that's it for my morning ramblings, the latest edition of the video journal, such as it is. So I will see you next time I'm wandering around Mae Sot and I've fired up a camera.